Eisenhower basically implemented a policy where more and more of these technologies were shifted into the control of these advanced corporations or these aerospace corporations who are responsible for basically reverse engineering these to build working prototypes of anti-gravity spacecraft and so forth. And these American elites were working very closely and had been really infiltrated and co-opted by the German secret societies. So, there's a historical process whereby more and more of this secret technology and knowledge shifted from military oversight and control into the hands of U.S. corporations and the U.S. secret societies and industrial elite.
And, of course, that's a perfect segue for Eisenhower and his famous beware the industrial military complex. What do you think? What's your personal opinion about the rumors, I don't know how substantiated they are, about Dwight David Eisenhower's meeting with the tall whites, the race?
Well, yes, I mean, there's a lot of whistleblower testimony and some powerful circumstantial evidence as well that Eisenhower had a number of meetings with different extraterrestrial civilizations, and that of course you also had the Nazis, Operation Paperclip, and the presence in Antarctica. What's very important here is an incident that happened in 1952. The Washington overflights.
Yes.
There were a number of flyovers of Washington, D.C. in 1952. Now, most people assumed that these were UFOs of some sort of extraterrestrial origin that were here to kind of warn us about the dangers of nuclear weapons and so forth. But what has happened, due to the testimony of people like Clark McClelland and a more recent whistleblower, Corey Good, is that those overflights were in fact Nazi UFOs, that these were Nazi anti-gravity vehicles that had been successfully developed in Antarctica and in South America, and that these by the early 1950s had become so advanced that they could safely overfly the United States without any problem from the most advanced kind of aviation defense systems that the US had at the time, and that they forced the Truman administration and the Eisenhower administration to secret negotiations, and that it was during the Eisenhower administration that you had a number of negotiations that occurred. So Eisenhower not only met with different extraterrestrial civilizations, he also met with basically the leaders of this German secret society breakaway civilization that was located in Antarctica, South America, and the moon. We can talk about that later.
Yes,
so
I do want to.
So Eisenhower was kind of like in the midst of all of this, and he thought that, okay, he'll negotiate, he'll come up with deals, and that and this will basically help the U.S. kind of equip itself with the most advanced technology so that in the future it will be ready to face these new enemies or these potential threats who had incredible technologies. But what happened was that Eisenhower had surrounded himself with elites. Nelson Rockefeller was one of Eisenhower's primary advisors, and actually it was Nelson Rockefeller that advised Eisenhower on reorganizing the American bureaucracy. And so basically Rockefeller came up with a plan to delegate more and more authority to U.S. corporations who would have real control over these advanced technologies. So by the time Eisenhower realized that the power had moved away from the control of the presidency and now was in the hand of the corporations with these committees that had been established under the National Security Council with Rockefeller and others, he realized that now he had no real power to rein these people in. And so that was when he at the end of his presidency in early January 1961, where he gave that farewell address warning about the power of the military-industrial complex.
Fascinating. So there really was a purpose to that flyover in 1952. It was a message.
Oh, definitely. It was a
Yes.
show of force. I mean, this is really a critical part of American history, that here you have a defeated enemy, um, 7 years after the defeat, suddenly flying over your capital city in advanced spacecraft that your best jet fighters have no way of intercepting or bringing down. So it's really a show of force that led the Truman administration, and then shortly after that the Eisenhower administration, to the bargaining table. And it was a very clever move by the German secret societies that had their spacecraft based in South America and in Antarctica, that they weren't interested in devastating the United States. They weren't interested in retribution for the devastation caused in Germany. I think that they were more interested in basically utilizing the vast industrial capacity of the United States for building a vast fleet of anti-gravity spacecraft that these German secret societies could then use to travel into deep space and for interstellar purposes. So I think that the secret societies had established not only kind of relationships with the Aldebrands, but also with other more aggressive extraterrestrial races, such as the draconian extraterrestrials, and that their plans were far more ambitious than merely conquering the United States or controlling planet Earth. Their plans had involved conquest in interstellar civilizations, and they saw the United States and the Earth as providing a very helpful industrial base for developing the kinds of advanced spacecraft and technologies that could be used for interstellar conquest, which I know maybe for some of your listeners this is incredible stuff, but I truly believe that this is really why the German secret societies decided that it was important for them to cooperate with the Eisenhower administration rather than exact revenge for the devastating Second World War loss on Germany.
Oh, it's fascinating, and I just want to throw in that our listeners have an enormously wide scope. We're proud of them, and I'm thinking they're handling all this. I'm hoping so. Hoping they're sitting down. And you touched briefly on the moon. Can we go back to that? Do we have secret bases on the moon? Is there an extraterrestrial presence there?
The German secret societies, with their bases in Antarctica, were able to successfully send craft to the moon. Now, this of course is an incredible thing that sometime in that 1945 period, 24 years before the Apollo moon landing, that the Germans had actually sent the first spacecraft to the moon. But that, in fact, is what the sources that I've been working with have revealed, that they were successful in doing that. In the book Inside of Your Secret Space Programs, I discuss the various sources that revealed this. But essentially, the Germans, secret societies, established a presence on the moon in the 1940s, and they found that they had to establish an agreement with one of the extraterrestrial civilizations that were already on the moon, that the moon, rather than being a kind of a vacant planetoid circling the Earth, is in fact crowded with different extraterrestrial bases on its far side.
So the far side. I was about to interrupt and say, why can't we see them? But there we go. That's the answer.
Yeah, exactly, because the far side of the moon gives an ideal position for monitoring the Earth, because from the far side of the moon you can see the Earth very easily, and of course we can't see them because they're in the sun's shadow when they're facing us, but they can see us. And so the far side of the moon gives an optimal way in which extraterrestrial civilizations can establish a presence near the Earth, monitor the Earth all the year round, except when the far side is on the opposite side of the Earth. And so when the Nazi or when the German secret societies went there with their space program, they found that in order to establish their own base there, they had to establish a treaty with one or more of the extraterrestrial civilizations that were already there. But because they had already previously established connections with the draconian extraterrestrials, so they established a treaty with the draconians who said, okay, you can establish a base over here in this area. And when the German secret societies went to that area, they were able to establish a base, and they were able to find or build over an older base. Some, like the moon is just filled with these ancient bases. Some of them are still in use. Many of them are kind of like not in use any longer, long gone. So the Germans found one of these old bases that had that had been disused a long time ago, and they basically rebuilt it, built over it, and established their own base.
So they rehabbed it. I'm just fascinated by that concept. That's amazing.
Exactly, yes. They rehabbed it, and they did the same thing in Antarctica. In Antarctica, they established underground bases in 3 locations with the help of this ancient Earth civilization. People call it the Agartha network, but basically the German secret societies had help there as well. So as far as the moon base is concerned, so the Germans built that moon base. And then in the 50s, after the Germans had negotiated a treaty with the United States, then eventually they turned that moon base over to the United States, and in particular to the US Navy, because it was the Navy that was at the forefront of developing the secret space program in the United States.
Yes, that's... I'm sorry, just to interrupt here. That's very interesting because, in a sense, to a civilian such as I, that's kind of counterintuitive. One would think, well, it's got to be the Air Force. They're the space guys. But it was the Navy.
Of course, yes, because the Navy are the babies. I'm sorry, the Air Force are the babies of the U.S. military service.
Yes.
The Navy goes back shortly after the formation of the American Republic,
right?
And they see themselves as the kind of guarantors or the protectors of the U.S.